You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings by $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Well, here we are.
We're back again.
We're back again. Chris is back. Tell a friend.
I am, in fact, no Slim Shady.
Welcome back to what is this? Gopher's Workshop?
Yeah, Gopher's Workshop. Gopher Tactics.
I don't know. We haven't done an episode in a while.
So let me start by saying we apologize. We've missed like the last 3 weeks of recording. Obviously, our plan is to get an episode out at least every week. I know there's like some hiccups with Adepticon, which is also a thing that happened in the last 3 weeks. We had some stuff going on with the shop in addition to Adepticon, like getting ready, also getting unpacked. We're still not unpacked from getting back.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain of work for Adepticon. Was good for us. We were glad to see some of you guys there. Appreciate seeing you.
I give Chris high fives all around. Also, no one came up to the booth and asked me to do the creasse.
And I'm okay with that. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff going on with the shop, so we've missed a few weeks. I apologize about that. We've had some good stuff going on, some less good stuff, but we're done with Adepticon now. Things are getting. We're trying to get back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get you an episode this week. And then we're going to try to get back to our every week. Hopefully, if we get some extra time with after we get settled from Adepticon, we'll try to get an extra episode or two out for you.
Yep.
But for today, as I'm sure you've already seen, we're going to jump straight into the old 11th edition.
Woot woot.
I am supposed to, according to GW, start by saying what we're talking about today are all confirmed information.
Mm-hmm.
If there is some sort of like they haven't quite covered it or it's not super clear, I will say so. But none of what we're talking about is rumors. They are being very open about information. Obviously, they haven't given us like the whole rule book or anything yet, right? Like they're going to. But
yep.
The information they're putting out, they're not doing spoilers. There's no rumors. There's confirmed information or there's unconfirmed information. They're not like playing that gray area with who leaked what. They're being very open about information. They're obviously starting with like missions and some of the big changes, some of the little details about like, all right, so how does cover interact specifically? Like, and ignore cover, that's all going to come later on down the road. They've got like gated information almost every week or every other week. They're going to give you another little bit. And I want to jump ahead in my notes here because they're very scattered and tell you that they promised, they being GW, that we would have the core rules, just like we did for 10th edition, for free, and they would be available before the official release. So we will all be able to kind of work together to like read through some stuff,
mm-hmm.
ask each other some questions, and kind of get some of that figured out before we just show up at the table. Also, with that in mind, the reason I know so much is because they have, through the approved TO program, they're having meetings, semi-regular meetings, where they are giving out information. They are answering our questions as best they can.
Yep.
Obviously, there's some things that we're asking that they can't tell us, but they're being very open about that. So if you have a local TO that's a part of the approved TO program, they should have or likely will have some real information direct from GW. Again, we are not, well, I say we never really deal with rumors all that much or speculation, but they are trying to make it very clear about they're not dealing with rumors or spoilers or leaks or whatever else. Here's the information. We're telling you way ahead of time so you can ask your questions and we can try to help. This should also mean a couple of things. And this is where I am going to speculate slightly.
Speculation.
Okay, well, I don't know how to do that anymore.
I just wanted to make it very clear.
The way they're going about this means that we have time to ask questions as TOs. Our players have time to ask their TO questions, and we can get a lot of those answers ahead of time. I think if there is any confusion, whether it's bad verbiage or confusing wording or whatever else, I think shortly after the official release, we are likely to see some like erratas and FAQs fairly early compared to normal. But that's a good thing, because that means if there's a wording that's like, I don't actually know how this works, they'll probably have had that question a dozen times before the official release. They'll be prepared to answer those questions, and we won't have to deal with this big, giant, glaring, we worded it wrong for months sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't care how many proofreaders and editors they have, right? There's always something that slips through the cracks. So we have to give them some leeway, but also they're doing some of this to try to help us so that we're not dealing with this glaring issue for a long time. It's just, yep, we know, it's worded poorly or whatever. Give us a week or two, we'll get you taken care of sort of thing. But that's my speculation, because I think they're handling this very well, but also this is where I think it mostly leads. Okay, getting into some actual details. For now, they're mostly talking about detachments, missions, force orgs, terrain, setups, things like that. They're not going over detailed rules. Again, they're not covering how ignore covers works. They're not covering, what changes they made to movement or data sheets or points. It's just the broad strokes, because these are the big changes, because this edition is actually going to be a surprisingly big shift when it comes to missions and terrain. Now, again, we're using the same codexes. Nothing's changing there. None of the detachments are going away, or if there are any going away, there's very few that are going away. So generally, we already have 90% of the information. Along with the asymmetric missions, these missions are going to be intentionally geared towards balance, right? It's not like Crusade where some guy starts in the middle and the other guy starts surrounding them. It's not that kind of asymmetric. It's asymmetric in that we have different goals, because it turns out if we decide we're going to do a narrative thing because we want to play Space Marine 2 on the tabletop, the Tyranid player is trying to kill everybody, right? And that's their goal. And then you have the Space Marine player who's trying to run around and get the MacGuffin. So you can still do these narrative fun things, but because the deployment zones are still basically the same that we've seen already, it can still be very balanced as far as one guy isn't fully surrounded to start with and he's totally struggling, and there's not going to be a difference. You start with 2,000 points and I'll start with 1,800 because I'm surrounding you. Not that kind of asymmetric.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing down the list. So there's been a lot of talk about detachments. As some of you may have seen on Warhammer Community already, detachments are now going to have a detachment point cost. Okay, so so far, detachment point costs are 1, 2, or 3. Depending on your points level determines how many points you get for detachments. The example given is Gladius, right? Everybody knows what that is. It's a big boy detachment that we've played with forever. That's a 3-point detachment, okay? It's got a full table of stratagems. It has all kinds of well-rounded stratagems that target all sorts of things. That's a 3-point detachment, okay? Then you have the example is a 1-point detachment. Well, in a 1-point detachment, you don't get 6 stratagems. You get, let's say, 2 or 3. And then on top of that, the less detachment or the less stratagems you get are more specific. So there may be a detachment that's specific to Terminators. The stratagems only target Terminator keyword. That's very restrictive, but it's only a 1-point detachment. So I don't feel so bad about that because I could have 3 or 4 of them. Okay. So that's how the detachment point system works. One of the biggest notes that we talked about in the meeting with GW is that unlike we've seen in previous editions, there's two major changes to having multiple detachments. First off, models are not assigned to detachments. So if I build a list and I use 3 different detachments, one is specific to Terminators, one is specific to bikes, and one is specific to jump packs. Okay, cool. These are my 3 detachments. It turns out, technically, there is no like force org chart for this detachment. There is no, well, models are in this, so they can only be affected by those abilities. No, you have a list of models. Here are what you spent your detachment points on. So in theory, if you have let's say I don't think it exists anymore, but if you had a Death Watch unit that had both a Terminator and it had a bike, well, you could use the 2 different detachments, one that says Terminator unit, one that says bike unit, and that unit is not assigned to a specific detachment. So either stratagem could target that unit. Again, that unit doesn't, I got Legends, so it doesn't actually exist anymore. But in theory, that could work that way. And this is a big shift because in the past, when we had multiple detachments, it was like each detachment needed an HQ and a troop choice. And then in order to take the detachment, you had to fill out those minimums. And they were specific to that detachment, so only those models got affected by that thing. That doesn't work the same way anymore. Now, because of this, there's also, they clarified there's going to be no real souping. Yeah. Unless your codex already says you get to play Eldar and Harlequins and Drukhari in this detachment, there is no, this detachment is for Eldari, and that allows me to take this, and then I'm going to take this detachment that's orcs, and then I get to play that. There's no souping. So there will still presumably be allies, as it states in the codex, where like, I'm playing Imperium. I can take an assassin model. Okay, cool, but there's like, that's because there's of the ally rules.
Still no crossing, right? You can't use Space Marine rules on the assassin.
Correct, because it's still going to say
right now.
Yep, Adeptus Astartes unit. Yep. The assassin model is not attached to a specific detachment, so you don't have to have a detachment that allows him. Obviously, later on down the road, they may put in detachments that allow this, but for the initial release, they're confirming that that's not how it works. There is no intended souping. So what I will say is what I found interesting, and I'm actually excited for, on the note of the detachments, is they said specifically that you can choose your old school detachments, your favorite detachment. Yep.
You still choose the one. Also, if you're somebody like me who likes to take like nothing but jump packs when it comes to Blood Angels,
yeah,
you could specialize in jump packs. You could
Correct.
take several different units, like several different detachments, small ones,
right,
link them together and just buff your jump pack units.
Yes. And for what it's worth, they used examples of like a Terminator detachment, but again, they did not.
And then they used like all Phobos Raven Guard.
Right. But they didn't actually tell us what the detachments were. Those were like hypothetical examples. While I'm sure we'll get a Terminator specific detachment. Again, they didn't confirm any of that. They were just using it as an example. They also kind of gave us the example of the 3-point and the 1-point. Mm-hmm. They didn't give us an example of a 2-point. So what I'm hoping for, but again, speculation, they didn't confirm any of this, is that some of our big boy detachments are actually going to end up being 2 points because of how specific they were. So like, we've always kind of given a hard time to like the first company detachment as like, that's the worst Space Marine detachment out there. Well, okay. And while that's true, it's definitely worse than Gladius, right? Because the stratagems are so specific to only these veteran units and the ability's less good. If that ends up being a 2-point detachment, well, now maybe I can take a Terminator list where I have all these cool things, but then I can take a 1-point detachment to fix some of the problems it has with being so specific. And now my list feels more balanced overall. Again, they didn't confirm anything about any of these specific detachments, but there's room to interpret that. And we have to wait and see. But like, I'm pretty hopeful because again, like that seems like an ideal position for it. Does have a full table of 6 stratagems, but like 5 out of 6 are very restrictive to only these like 3 units. That should not be a 3-point detachment despite being 6 full stratagems. Yep. So I think we can make some of these, what we currently call worst detachments, more viable by adding in a 1-point detachment that can kind of round out our list.
So something else I found interesting. We're up to 4 enhancements now.
Okay. Yes. We didn't talk about that specifically. They did mention it a bit, but we didn't go super in depth on that. So while there is some changes that they put out, I don't want to go too deep into that because there is still a lot of speculation on how that works. They gave us some information. There is still more information to be had, and I didn't get additional information than what's on Warhammer Community. So what's on Warhammer Community basically stated, and I'm going to paraphrase this a bit, is that enhancements are going to be less likely restricted to a specific character model, and they're going to be applied more to a unit. So this means you could take a unit of infiltrators and they've got no character attached, and you could just give them a buff, kind of like we used to see with Tau. That's pretty cool. I like that. It also talked about when doing this, and again, this is a little bit of speculation, but it makes it sound like you could have like 4 different enhancements, and each enhancement could go on like 3 units. So you could like duplicate the enhancement because they're going to be less like unique relics and more like specialized training or something like that. So in theory, you could interpret that article to say like you could have up to 12 units with enhancements on it. Obviously, it's going to cost you points, but you could. But again, we don't have all the information yet. So while that might be true, they may end up saying there's a maximum of like 4 units that can be enhanced, but they allow you to duplicate one enhancement up to 3 times. We don't have all the information yet. Long story short, we do have the information of like, we're going to be able to target more than just characters. Enhancements presumably are going to be a little less powerful because they're not unique, but also you'll be able to spam them a little bit better. So it'll feel like a lot of what they're doing, arguably you could always put into the lens of more narrative, right? So you're playing Ultramarines. Ultramarines could do a thing, but if you take this attachment and you do this enhancement and you kind of spam this enhancement, now you could make the argument like, well, I'm not just playing Ultramarines. I'm playing like the Tyrannic War Ultramarines that are like extra good against Tyranids because they've been fighting them forever. And like, again, I'm not saying it's that specific, but the idea of the enhancement is more like training than it is a relic will allow you to do some more narrative stuff like that.
So another thing, while we're on the discussions of armies and making them, characters now gets assigned leader and support.
Yes. So that's a big thing. They did clarify when you initially assign a character to a unit. So when the character dies, because it becomes a separate unit, it loses the ability of the main data sheet that was bodyguarding it because it kind of shared when they were together. It also creates some weird and sometimes confusing rules interactions of like, it's now a separate unit, so it doesn't benefit from its leader ability because it says while leading. Also, it's like a separate unit for kill points because now it's like 2 separate data sheets, and they streamlined a lot of that. This is arguably beneficial, but also it's just going to be easier. When you assign this lieutenant to this unit of, again, infiltrators, whatever it is, now, even if every bodyguard dies, it doesn't matter. He still counts as being a part of that unit. So he still benefits from the infiltrator's ability. Even though there are no infiltrators left, he still counts as leading. It's all one unit. So this creates, or cleans up, I should say, a lot of the confusion about, is it a separate unit now? Is it not? What abilities does it still apply? It's however it started. Those are the rules it has. Those are the abilities it has until every model's dead, character or not. We know it works that way. We can presume, though it hasn't technically been confirmed, that it works in the other way as well. So we don't know for sure, but maybe precision after you kill the character, maybe the unit loses the character abilities. Probably doesn't, because it sounds like they're trying to streamline all this. So it may still have the character abilities, even if you precision out the character. Again, we don't know that for sure, but that's kind of a presumption from we know it works one way. It seems reasonable to work the opposite way as well.
Well, there's that, but also now when you select a character to join a unit, it's at the beginning of the game or beginning of you building a list, for sure. In addition to that, you now have to select whether it's the leader of that unit or the support piece to that unit. So that is what I find very interesting, because Space Marines, we can already do that, right? We had the apothecary, we had lieutenants. We've got a bunch of things that are like this. Mm-hmm. Now everybody sounds like, again, this is the rumor part, sounds like everybody's going to have access to this at a certain degree.
Right, and we don't exactly know how that's going to work, because while they gave us some information, we didn't get the full implementation, right? So there's an argument to maybe support is what they refer to as like the second character in the unit.
Yes.
Support appears to be the second character. I guess I don't know for sure if support characters can be like the only character and thus become the leader character or stay support. I don't know. That's like specific wording that probably doesn't necessarily matter. But again, we don't have the official rules. We have here's the paraphrased how it works. And that's kind of true for almost all of this.
So before we go to our mid break, do you want to talk about force disposition?
Yeah, there's a lot to go over. I know my notes are a little scattered, but we have barely made it through half of the first page.
Oh my God.
We may have to do a part 2 to this. So force dispositions. Everyone has seen on Warhammer Community, or if you haven't, you can go look. There are 5 different force positions. So multiple steps to this. For starters, there are 5 categories. There's going to be a rubric of 5 by 5, because it's what one of the 5 you chose and the one of 5 your opponent chose. That means there are 15 unique missions. Your, let's say, category Purge the Foe, and they choose category Take and Hold. So now you just follow the little thing. That's your mission. Okay. Things that they confirmed for us during the meeting was that every faction will have access to every force disposition. Each detachment unlocks specific force dispositions. So that is to say, every faction can play all the mission types, no matter so if you would rather play the Take and Hold because that's your preferred style of the game, I don't care what faction you play, you will have access to that. It's only going to be on specific detachments, but you do have access to everything. Furthermore, when you are selecting your force disposition, that happens as a part of your list build. So you're going to build your list, and just like we currently select our warlord and our enhancements and things like that, you're going to select, I have these 2 detachments. These detachments unlock Take and Hold and Purge the Foe. Before I even show up to the table, I'm going to determine which category I want my list to play in. And that will affect what units you put in the list, presumably. But you can thematically decide, I'm playing Tyranids and this is Space Marine 2, and I just want to Purge the Foe because that's what I do. Totally cool. You can do that. In doing so, your opponent is going to do the same. So now, when you show up to, let's say, your weekly play, there's nothing stopping you from saying, this week, same list, I have access to these 2 options, categories. I'm going to choose one, and next week I choose the other because I want to play something new. You can totally do that. But the idea of putting it in your list build means that when you show up to a tournament, we got 3 rounds to play today. When you start the day, whatever category you pick, you are stuck in that for the whole day, the whole event.
Makes sense.
So long term, this is actually really good for the players. As a player, if you are trying to be more competitive and you're like, I'm going to go to tournaments, I'm going to play this, you're going to have to play around with the different categories and see what you do better at, what your faction does better at. But once you solidify, I know I want to do Take and Hold. My faction seems to like that better. I seem to do better with that. That's what feels good. I'm doing Take and Hold. Now you have 5 missions to learn, and only 5 missions. That's way better than right now, where it's like, not only is there a dozen missions, but also I got to hope the tournament organizer picks the mission that's good for my faction. Because if they pick this mission with this layout, my faction's terrible at that. And you just have to get lucky. Now, you know exactly what you're getting. It's one of those 5 missions. If you're bad at one of those, maybe that's acceptable. But also, it's those 5. There's no, the tournament organizer picked a specific mission that you're bad at, and then like, what could you do? You know exactly before you even show up to the event. Mm-hmm. Here's exactly the 5. You could fix yourself or your list or whatever to deal with all the 5 of those. There are obviously more things we could talk about force disposition, and we probably will. Last thing I'll touch before we go into the mid-break is that this rubric of 25, which is effectively 15 unique missions, that is determined by you and your opponent's list choice, because the choosing the category is a part of your list building. That means it's no longer in the event organizer. They have already thought ahead, and again, they refers to GW here, have already thought ahead, and it would feel kind of bad if you showed up to a big tournament day and first round you play Necrons, second round you play Orcs, third round you play Tyranids, and you end up playing the same mission every time because you're locked into Purge the Foe, and every time your opponent ended up pick and take and hold. So, in addition to these 15 unique missions, each mission effectively has 3 layouts. This means your tournament organizer is no longer selecting missions for people. Your tournament organizer is going to say, all right, round 1, we're going to choose layout A. Everybody, you pick your mission because that's what's determined by your lists. But then of your mission, there are 3 layouts. You're going to do category A. And then round 2, we're going to do category B. And round 3, category C. And for what it's worth, that means that even if you end up playing effectively the same mission, not only does your opponent change and your opponent's list change, but now like terrain gets shuffled around, so it still feels unique and different, so you don't end up with a really boring 3-day event. Now, obviously, the beginning of the edition, it's not going to feel boring. It's actually going to feel kind of good to play the same one over and over because you're still learning. But later on in the edition, we're going to be happy that this is true.
Well, with that being said, do you think we've talked enough about missions at this point?
No, there's so much more to go.
Well, then maybe we make this the missions episode.
My notes, because of the way they did the meeting, are pretty scattered, so we're probably going to hit some other stuff too. But yeah, there's it's a brand new edition. We don't even have all the information, and I could drown you guys in hours of just fun facts. While the idea is that tournament organizers will select layouts, for example, fun fact, it was suggested, especially for team events, because they're paying attention to those, that while you could have the organizer determine what layout is what round, an alternate suggestion, not mandated, is that to make the attacker defender feel more relevant, the defender chooses the layout, so that while the terrain is effectively mirrored or close to mirrored, now the defender feels like they get some more choice.
So it sounds like we got a lot of information.
Yes.
My brain hurts.
Let's do some mid-breaky stuff, and then when we come back, I think we're gonna focus a little bit on some terrain stuff because there's a lot of questions about that. Mm-hmm. And then we'll see how deep we can get into that before we need to take a hard break and do a second episode, so we all can take a
breather and process what we
process a little bit.
All right. Well, on that note, let's go to our mid-break. Well, here we are, middle of the episode. Krias!
Yes.
What do we do in the middle of the episode?
We need to start with the old patrons.
Oh, we haven't thanked them in forever.
First on the list.
So, to our patrons, starting with our guardsman patron, Why
are you getting like sultry with it?
Because they're guardsmen.
I know you miss them, but also like give them some space.
So, first up, thanks to our guardsman patrons, Matt's Mini Minute, Sergeant Matt's Mini Minute, Bazinga, and Captain Beefalo. Oh my God. Okay, so now it's promoted. Because you have Sergeant Matt's Mini Minute. Not even really, that's not even part of his name. It's just Matt's Mini Minute. But then you have actual Captain Beefalo.
Listen, we've both been in the military. We both know that a good captain finds a reasonable sergeant and they work together. Okay.
But in addition to that, we have another guardsman patron.
Hooray!
Hooray! So thank you to our new guardsman patron, Andy. We also have to thank our White Shield guardsman patrons, Mitch, Nicodemus, Taburus, and our Servo Skull patrons, Dez and Renee. So thank you to our patrons. We love you. And a quick reminder to our guardsman patrons: you have benefits. You have extra bonuses.
Correct.
Make Chris do work.
The old Captain Beefalo sent me a list, and I helped him. Gave him some alternative options. Also, kind of like, here's what I saw, sort of thing. So he had a list idea that he said basically he started as like a kind of like a joke. And then about 3/4 of the way through, he's like, maybe this actually works. So, he was just like wanting a little help polishing that up. So I gave him, here's what I think you're missing. Here's what I think it does well. Here's some alternative choices to kind of fix those deficiencies. And that's a thing that all guardsmen have access to, right? So like, if you're doing the thing, send me a list. If you're not a guardsman and that's the thing you want, I'm more than happy to, once a month, send me a list. I will spend real time on it and like process, what do I see here? What can we do to fix the list? Or what can we do to, I don't want to say fix the list. That might be too much, but what things
what can we do to doctor
suggested?
The list to make it better for you? I will say our patrons at different levels get an astounding level of support, different levels of support from us in return. That being said, we appreciate all of you because this wouldn't be possible without you. But yes, we want to make sure that those who are throwing dollars are getting equal in return, right? Or greater. It's always greater. To be honest, it's greater.
Aaron's over here pimping me out. So
you're right. So that being said, thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our dear listeners, because you stuck through and you listened. We had a long break, but you came back, and we love you. We love big hearts. Big hearts. Chris is just giving me a look like, stop.
We started off sultry, and now we're doing like big hearts and
big hearts.
Clearly, Aaron is desperate for your love. So
I am. Love me. I need tension. So that being said, new things to talk about. Wow, what a wild ride we're about to enter. All right. 11th edition at Adepticon got announced. Well, I guess the new edition. We don't have an actual number yet.
It's 11th edition. Anyway, we saw the Armageddon box. We don't know what's all in it yet. I mean, we have a pretty good idea.
You're right.
I'm going to lose my little mind on the spoilers. I was very upset. The boy was cool. We got real information, and while it's only a boy, you know what? I'm not upset about the boy. It felt like real information, and it was like a unique sculpt. Then they gave me a Space Marine, where I let my cousin Kit bash, and they just did a head swap and, I don't know, shaved off a knee pad. Like, that was the most disappointing, like, flick to the nuts.
Oh, here's the boy. Also, here's an intercessor. We know you have a bunch of these just in a box somewhere, but here's a new one.
It's not even like it's like, oh, here's some new war gear. It's like, no, they said there was new war gear, and the new war gear is a head swap. That's not war gear. It's fine. It's fine. I loved all the information they put out. I was very excited about a bunch of stuff, even for some of the games I don't play.
How's Moving Castle? How's Moving Castle?
I know you love that one. But also,
it's got big guns.
Like, of all the things they put out, the bar none most disappointing thing was them telling me, here's a new model, and then showing me an intercessor with a head swap.
Sometimes I think they do this on purpose.
Ugh. Okay, now, that being said, given like the video they showed, we already know we're getting a new Chaplain with Jump Pack, right? So like, I know there's cool models in there. I'm not saying the box isn't worth it. It's absolutely going to be worth it. But goddamn, was it just the worst spoiler they could have given me? Or reveal, I should say, not spoiler.
You got Red Terror, Cog Forts. We got all kinds of stuff.
Red Terror looks amazing. Again, there's so much cool stuff.
Wazdaka.
Just ended on an intercessor. Anyway, okay. All right. Moving on.
So anyway, all that being said, I wanted to let everyone know our plans here. What are we doing? All right. 11th edition is coming. It's coming. What are we doing here for the podcast? This is the big announcement, right? We are going hard into 11th edition. We are going to be the place to go to for your rules. We're going to be creating YouTube shorts and explaining the new rules, doing the thing. We as a store are going super hard into 11th edition. We're going to try to get as many box sets as they let us get to you guys at our normal discounted rates. We're going hard into this. We're going to be trying to get in it first with the info. We got GW. We're talking directly to them a lot of the times. We are just going to try to make this the go-to place for your all things 11th edition. So that's what you can look forward to with this podcast. I know we're a little behind the curve on this 11th edition episode and everything else, but again, we're like a week behind. Yeah, we got behind in things, but we are definitely hitting the nail on the head here. We're getting right back into it, and we're going to get ahead. We're going to get ahead. Because a lot of the info that you guys are getting on the internet now, we had about a week, 2 weeks ago.
And there's a couple of things there, right? Like there's places that are out there putting out like, here's the rumors, here's the spoilers. Like, I'll be honest, I saw, and I'm not trying to call anyone out, but there was another YouTuber who put out like, here's all the rumors. 99% of what he put up, none of it was rumors. We were literally at Adepticon watching the video being like, I just had a beer with the GW guys and they told me all of this. It's not a rumor.
Yeah.
They said, tell people.
Yeah.
So rumors are generally not a thing for this edition.
We were asked by the TOs, the TO representatives from GW, the official TO program representatives.
Yeah.
We were asked directly to make sure we do not do any sort of rumor mill. We are doing information only. And
they specifically also said, all the information they're giving us, they said, you're not under NDA. We want you to tell people. We want you to help people understand what's happening so that there's less confusion about, because I mean, even in 10th edition, right? There was like coming out of 10th edition, people were talking about, oh, this is how the rule works. And then we got the actual like printed sheet and that's not the wording at all. So like they're trying to prevent all that. So also, in addition to all of these rules and information, we're also your place for physical product.
You're right.
If you have a local store, support your local store.
Absolutely.
That's important. That's where you play. Support those guys. Whether it's they run out, if you don't have a local store, whatever, we should be able to take care of you. I have already, though I haven't gotten an answer, I have already asked my rep about if I order by a pallet, what is that number? We're going to have as many boxes they'll let me get.
Yep.
With that in mind, part of the reason I'm doing this is because we're not changing our ways. The answer is 15% off. That's what we do all the time. That's what we're going to do for this. So we'll take care of you. Again, support your local store that you play at first. But if you can't because they didn't get enough, or if you don't have one of those because you're playing in your garage or whatever, we'll take care of you.
So with that being said, here's all of your announcements. I guess that's it for this mid-break. Let's go from here to the last part of our 11th edition episode. All right, so we talked about a lot of the stuff. We in the beginning of this episode, we talked about a lot of stuff that you have access to on Warhammer Community, and we added a few little bits of flavor that we got from the TO program. Now, to spice up the ending of this episode, Chris is going to talk about the things that very limited amount of people have access information to right now from the official TO program.
Right.
So,
but they wanted to get this information out. That's why they told us.
You're right. So remember when we told you we were going to have exciting new info? Here you go. Here it is.
Now, obviously, most of this stuff, if not all of this stuff, is going to come out over the next few weeks, next month or two. Like, this is a part of 11th edition. This isn't like secret. You only get it if you listen to this, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is getting everyone information as early as possible so they can be excited and also they can like process and start to understand as we get more and more information. So, one of the big things I want to hit that I was very surprised and excited about, GW is in essence going to save some of the, let's say, more hardcore players some money.
Oh?
So one of the things that's going to happen, because they talked about the new app and some of the updates that are coming. Yep. So one of the big things that stuck out to me is that we don't know how this is going to work exactly, but they did say in the new edition with the new app, when you are playing, you are going to have access in some way to your opponent's rules. So now,
okay,
I'm playing over here with my Necrons. Cool, having a good time. I paid for my codex, so I got my little code, right? Now I'm playing against Votan, and well, he's saying some stuff that doesn't track, or like I don't understand what he's saying because he's like going too fast or whatever else. There will be a way. I don't have to go buy a Votan codex. I will be able to check his rules and be like, no, you said that gun was strength 6. It's actually 4. Like, you can just check those things. And the reason I'm saying I think this saves people money is not only do you not have to buy codexes, but for those that are really on a budget, this feature is going to be available without purchasing the Warhammer Plus subscription.
Heck yes. GW doing things right. Let's go.
Again, I don't know how that's going to work exactly. I assume, but again, I don't know. I assume there's going to be some sort of like, they've got a QR code on their phone because they have the code. You scan it, and like for this match,
you get access to it.
Or something. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to work. They haven't explained the implementation, but they did explain that it would exist
during your matches.
You get to play a match. You'll have access to all the rules. You're not relying, like slowing the game down, relying on your opponent to pull up the rule and show you.
Yep.
You'll be able to just check it while they're moving stuff, that sort of thing. So that's a pretty big deal. Was kind of surprised by that and very excited. Going down the list, we got some other weird things. What do we got? So points. They clarified missions are just like they currently are going to be 100 points. They clarified, and this is where it gets a little confusing, but I'm going to trust what they intended, not necessarily the specific thing they said, because I specifically asked a question about the like hobby scoring and 100-point missions and stuff like that. They said it'll still be 100-point missions. It'll still be 10 points for hobby scoring, just like it is now. The way they said it will be exactly as it is now for scoring. The reason I think there's a little confusion here is because currently it's set up to be 50 primary, 40 secondary, 10 for hobby.
Yeah.
They said it was 45, 45, 10. That might have just been he was flooded with questions and like a simple mix-up. But the fact that he said it'll be the same it is now, I'm going to assume what he meant is 50, 40, 10.
I will say we do have confirmed from the website today that a primary mission has been capped at a total of 45 per game.
Okay, so it will be 45,
It will
45,
be 45,
10.
yeah. And it's 15 per victory points per battle round, period dot. You can only score 15 per battle round.
Okay.
So that is all confirmed via the website. So
cool.
I'm sure what he was saying was probably right on the money.
Yeah, so I guess it'll go to 45, 45, but 10 still for hobby, still 100-point missions. So that's a whole thing. Deployment zones, specifically zones, not objectives or anything else. Zones are almost entirely, if not close to, going to be the same as we already have. They're still going to be mirrored. He said that they are playing with some new deployment zones, but he's not actually certain that any of them are going to be implemented. They're just playtesting them to see if it's possible. But all the ones that have been confirmed already, he already knows they're all the same ones that we've been dealing with already. Okay,
so we're going to have like, God, now all the names slip by. We're going to have the same ones we have now.
Hammer and Anvil, all the table quarters, all that good stuff. He also said that there will be, there's no plan for additional primary missions throughout the edition.
Oh.
So once you get this rubric, that is the rubric.
That's it.
Now, that being said, it is designed to where they can go and alter a specific square, right? So like this matchup with column B and column C has been having some weird things go on to where it doesn't feel very balanced. They can go adjust individual missions and correct issues, whether that's with the terrain layouts or whether it's with like the specific points on, actions or whatever else. So they can make changes to the missions, but there's not intended to be new missions. This rubric of 5x5, that is the edition. Okay. Now, this is specifically for match play. Obviously, like Crusade is still going to exist. There's still going to be some even more asymmetric missions that are a part of campaign books. But for the regular like tournament play, the missions we get are the missions we got.
Again, exciting news on that one.
Yep. There's a bunch of little things. Board sizes staying the same. There's still going to be 5 to 6 objectives. Obviously, most of you have seen that objective markers are no longer markers. They are terrain features.
Yep.
Now, there is a clarification here, which all of you will either already know or will know shortly. But the objective markers are templates. They're not specific buildings.
So it's not the actual building itself. It's the template in which
Correct.
The building sits.
Now, the templates still matter, right? They still have line of sight blocking.
Yep.
They still create verticality. I was told that verticality is way more relevant in the new edition.
Okay, that's exciting.
Now, he said that's for several reasons. The only example he gave me, though he said there were several reasons, was in reference to the I forget the exact name, but the hidden whatever, to where like when you're in a terrain feature, you gain kind of lone op unless you do an action or shoot. So verticality now changes that bubble because you're measuring at an angle, right? To be like closer. That's the example. And obviously that's just like simple math that is technically true.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem super crazy, but he said there were several things. So we can look forward to finding out what those other things are.
Yeah.
But supposedly verticality is more important now. Or he said more relevant, I should say. Game length is another one that he covered.
Ooh.
Yes, game length is intended to be the same. There are a bunch of things they are adding into the game that are designed to speed up the game. One of the examples we got was piling in. Happens all at the same time. Everybody piles in at once. So it's going to save you a bunch of time instead of going this back and forth and I do a thing, you do a thing, and whatever else. It's kind of like, go ahead, pile in. We're just, okay, now we're done with pile in.
It's like, this mile is going to pile in here, and just pile them in and be done.
Yep. So that's an example, right? But there's a bunch of things that are going to speed up the game. That's great. Also, there's a couple of things that are going to slow the game down. So like the fact that when you start a game, a round 2 at some local tournament, you have to set up the terrain. You got to figure out what mission you're playing, look to see what layout you're playing, and then you as players have to set up the templates. So like plus and minuses, the intent is the mission or the game is still the same length. You are still going to get 3 hours. Obviously, most tournament organizers at the beginning of the edition, we're all learning stuff. We're all getting used to it, especially for places that are, I don't want to say less competitive, but aren't used to setting up terrain or have like a more proactive TO who did the terrain setup for them. Because like we usually set up terrain for the guys. That's going to be a thing that like beginning of the edition, most TOs are going to give everybody an extra 5-10 minutes to like set up terrain features and get used to the measurements and that sort of thing. But the intent is, after we get past that learning curve, game is back to regular time frame. 3 hours is a tournament round. That's normal.
Yep. Well, and a lot of like the, I guess, higher skilled players, that's going to be an achievable goal. They're already like getting done, before that 3 hour mark anyway.
Correct. And that is supposed to be an achievable goal for everyone.
You're right.
Again, there are other things they put into the rules that will
to speed it up and
speed the whole game up for people. So after it all washes out, should still be the same time frame. He clarified OC works exactly the same as it does now. You're just like the little neoprene circles. Now it's a square, a rectangle, right? Because it's just the template. But as far as like, it works the exact same as it does now. You're touching the template, you're touching the neoprene, you count your OC.
What's going to be interesting is the arguments that are going to ensue. Like currently layout 1, you have that little L shape in the middle. Because it's 2 different placards, everybody goes, yeah, it's 2 different things. It's not. It's the same building all the way through. We're going to have some very interesting arguments, I think, from the get-go with that particular rule.
Let me start by saying a lot of that is going to be alleviated. Because with the new terrain layouts, there are going to be, and let me just almost verbatim this, the boards are going to be more dense when it comes to templates. So the game is going to feel as though the terrain is more dense. However, some of the templates are not necessarily intended to have actual terrain features on them. So kind of like we do right now, where we have like the really small rectangles and we just don't put a crate on there because it's obscuring and that's all that matters. There's going to be some like odd shaped templates that are designed for that thing.
Oh, it's like a crater. So yeah, it obscures, but that's about it.
Correct.
Okay.
So he said that there wasn't necessarily more terrain features, but the game would feel as though it was slightly more terrain dense. Now, again, all of that is a little up in the air because we don't actually have the layouts. So while it is more terrain, let's say dense, what does that mean? We don't know exactly, right? He didn't give me, well, that's a lie. He did give me the exact number of templates that there would be. There are going to be 8 templates aside. They're mirrored. So if you have a 4x6 template, your opponent also has a 4x6 template on their side.
So it's going to be 16 total
16
on the map?
Total templates.
Wow. So 16. So we're going up by 4 additional templates.
But again, not all of them are the same sizes. The sizes of some of the templates are the same. Some of them are brand new. The one template that kind of stood out to me is he said there was going to be one template that he thought was 10 inch by 2 inch. So a big wall.
Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time on this because we're already running too close to the end of the episode, but
I haven't even really gotten to terrain. We've kind of gotten to terrain.
All right, so hold on. I already know, I can already hear Tau players and guard players screaming into their pillows.
But let me just
because Lane of Fire.
But and this is where I'm saying, until you actually see the layouts, I don't think it's that bad.
I want it. I hear you and I agree, but I want us to make that point known because GW directly said this to us at the TO meeting. They thought about every player. So let us know what actually is going on here.
Correct. And again, we don't have the terrain layout. So this, I'm going to give examples. These are not information that I have gained confirmed. Okay. But when I say there's a 10 inch by 2 inch template, right? Because that's the one that I like, wow, that seems weird. If you string that across the middle of the board, you're right. Your line of sights suck. But what happens if that template goes along a table edge and is only like 2 inches off the table edge? Well, now you have this like little alley of like someone could sneak up the edge, but also you're not blocking line of sight for almost anything except for that one like line of 5 dudes literally going like piggybacking each other. Like, okay, sure, it does technically block line of sight, but like that giant template feels like it covers almost nothing on the board. So we don't know yet. And this is where I'm saying, yes, 16 templates and this giant long 10-inch by 2, like that seems crazy. We don't know that it's that bad. They have already said they know 10th edition is like the most balanced it's been, and they're certain, and I say this, they said they were certain that after a little bit of like tweaking and everybody learning what's going on, they are certain by the end of 11th edition, it is going to be even more balanced than it is now. And that is with way more narrative involved in the thing, because you have these asymmetric missions and stuff like that. So give them time.
Yep. Always.
Just trust them.
That is the preach that we give here. Give them time. Calm down. We discussed DACA again during the TO meeting, and they were like, yeah, I wish they would have calmed down and given us some time.
And again, speculation again. None of this is confirmed, but how easy would it be to say that like certain templates aren't line of sight blocking? Some of them are, because we know they talked about obscuring. So like, some of them are, but maybe some of them are just giving the benefit of cover. So now there's 16 templates, but 2 of them on each side are just cover. They're not actually obscuring. Like,
we don't know how we don't know how the buildings are going to work.
There's so much information we don't have. We got to give them more time.
So something I want to hit home here when we're talking about all this is I am thrilled to hear that it sounds like we're just fixing some problems that we had with 10th edition. We're just speeding the game up so that new players can feel like they can actually like play the game.
Or they can get through it quicker.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited that we're only changing a few things going into seemingly minor things into 11th edition, because 10th edition's, to me as a new player, it was one of the simplest forms of 40K that I have ever had to learn and experience, because I had to go back through and I tried to learn Rogue Trader. I tried to learn 9th and 8th edition. I'm telling you right now, I was done halfway through the first page. I'm done. I don't want to play this anymore. I don't even want to try. Like, 10th edition was one of the most easily accessible and accommodating for as a new player, and I'm happy to see we're keeping that vibe going into this new edition.
And while there is going to be arguably a ton of changes in 11th, almost every change is about keeping the balance we already have and injecting more narrative, more balance. Again, the fact that you can adjust missions now means that, like, well, I just pick a faction, right? Votan, we talked about them earlier. Votan, this detachment's terrible. What if you give them the category of mission that's terrible currently, because that current detachment has to play 12 different missions and it's not very good at most of those. Well, now that detachment only has to deal with 5. We can give them the 5 that it's best at. And now that air quotes terrible detachment becomes actually way more viable and like an anti-meta tech or something, right? So it's going to end up being more balanced. It's going to end up being more narrative. So while there are a bunch of changes, the core values that made 10th good are all still there. I do want to touch on templates just a touch more. So they are going to give out to at least TOs, but I assume because they're giving out TOs, they'll give it out to everybody. They're going to give out some sort of printable templates. So as they are changing the templates, whether you're a tournament organizer or because whether it's intentional or unintentional, they'll end up disseminating to everyone else. The new templates, if you got a friend with a 3D printer, you can print the new templates. They're going to sell the like fancy version of the new templates too. So these are things that it sounds like a bunch of change. And if you're playing in your garage, you're like, shit, I got to go buy more templates. You don't have to. Like, yes, it's still going to cost you some dollars, right? But they said there's going to be a free version of the templates for at least TOs, if not everybody. And again, I'm almost certain it's going to be everybody. So a lot of these changes aren't necessarily going to cost you dollars either, which is good.
That's fantastic. So, what else you got new for us, Kriyath?
There's a bunch of little stuff. They talked about doing the grand narrative. That's going to start sometime in November.
Grand narrative? What?
They talked about, I mentioned earlier that they are going to have some suggestion for team events, that is technically different than doubles.
Mm-hmm.
They already talked about they're going to put in the matched play, like handbook or whatever you want to call it, suggestions for how to deal with force disposition
for doubles.
With doubles. So when you have two different players that they choose two different things, they're already going to have suggestions as to how to determine what to do there.
Nice.
Which, because we do doubles like every other month, that's very relevant to us.
Mm-hmm.
Deployment zones are still mirrored. Blah, blah. They're working on moving worlds to Spain.
Wait, what? Hold on.
Don't mind me. We're glossing over that.
Don't you gloss over that. We're moving worlds to Spain?
Yes, and they're working on moving it to Barcelona. They are, when I say working on it, we don't know exactly what year that's happening, right? But we know that it's going there at some point. And they talked about right now, a lot of times when they do worlds, they have to do like with the venues, they have to do like multi-year contracts, right? So like now that we decided we're doing Atlanta, we got to do Atlanta for a couple of years because that's the only way they would like work with us or whatever. The way they're setting it up is they're trying to get a bunch of contracts going for multi-years, but then once they have that network set up, they will be able to bounce worlds literally every year because...
Well, it'll kind of be like the Olympics.
Right. But in doing so, because they're trying to do more like GW Open events, you're going to be like, oh, Barcelona, hell yeah, they got it. They're doing worlds there. And then the year after, well, it turns out now it's open and they move worlds to this other open event turned into worlds that year. And then the world event gets to scatter around so that not everybody has to spend, thousands of dollars to go to worlds every year. And it kind of rotates a little bit and we give everybody a little break on their budget sort of thing.
Which I know when they moved it to the US, you and I talked off air about how nice it would be for them to be able to do it like the Olympics happen. Like, we're going to transfer this every year. We're going to go to a new place. Yep. We're going to do the thing, kind of spread the love. Mm-hmm. This is awesome that they have taken some feedback and rolled with it.
Yep. Again, I know because they were very specific about Barcelona. So I know that they're working on that. They're trying to get that up and running as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Someone else asked a question about Mexico. They said that they were already looking at it, but obviously there was nothing confirmed there as far as if they can or not, but they are looking at it. So they're setting up this big giant network of open events. And once all those venues are set up for open events that will run presumably every year, then it'll be very easy for them to bounce around the specific Worlds event and kind of help everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's, Australia, because those guys have to travel forever, like we'll be able to bounce it around a lot more.
Spread the love a little. Like how you try to gloss over that shit.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I know most people have already seen about the secondaries. Secondaries are almost unchanged from the current edition. The real difference is instead of discarding at the end of your turn or end of your opponent's turn, you're just going to draw 2 every turn. And if you hadn't completed it, you can complete it on a later turn sort of thing. There will still be restrictions as far as like how many points you can score in a turn, but that will give you a bit more options and flexibility. So you feel a little less hemmed in with like, well, it's turn 5 and I drew 2 cards that I can't do. So I guess I'm not allowed to score sort of thing. Crusade's still going to be around. It's still going to be technically separate. I know I already talked about that a little bit earlier. I'm just bouncing through my notes. Missions are going to be easily rebalanced because they can adjust a specific square on the rubric. With the new terrain and template setups, the missions are specifically balanced for these exact setups. So They already said there's no restriction that says you can't play outside your force disposition. You can't alter templates or you can't alter terrain. You're allowed to do that, right? They're not going to tell you you can't. But the farther you get away from their recommendations, the less balance the game is going to get. And because they're getting so specific about this is where the templates go, these are the size of the templates, they're offering you the templates effectively for free so you can print them, right? Like, try to stick to their recommendations because it's going to mess with balance a lot. That, with that in mind, they are not telling any tournament organizer to adjust their setups or whatever else. They can do whatever they want. But they are saying that if you're not following their recommendations, they are less likely, almost unlikely, less likely to use your tournament information to affect the stats that they're tracking. What this, I'm interpreting this means, I'm not saying they said this, I'm interpreting that as right now, a lot of the stats on some of the factions are very skewed. And I say that because we've talked before about how like WTC literally has alternate rules and UKTC has like wholly different terrain setups that have almost nothing to do with what is recommended. So those are going to start being excluded a bit out of the numbers unless those guys start getting closer to what's recommended, which I think is going to be better for all of us. And that's not to shit on the UKTC or at a DTC, right? Like, if you guys are having fun with that and they want to keep doing that, keep doing it, no problem. But not having their information kind of taint, for lack of a better term, the stats means that they'll, all those points adjustments that we argue about of like, why did they do that? And this doesn't make sense to me. Those should start to come in line a little better and make more sense because their information is cleaner. One of the things they really wanted me to clarify, and I kind of skipped this, there will be no faction-specific secondaries. There's been a lot of confusion, and there was even an approved TO that misspoke after a different meeting with GW that kind of said there would be. There will be no faction-specific secondaries. If there are, it's probably going to be a Crusade-only thing. If they are, they're going to be way later on in the edition. But as far as we're concerned right now, the first year, whatever it is, right? The beginning of the edition.
We ain't getting any faction-specific secondaries.
Zero chance of faction-specific secondaries. And because there's going to be no additional primary missions, there should be no faction-specific primaries either. Missions are the missions. Everyone has access to the same ones. Oh, we talked about terrain. One thing that I got excited about, I almost missed. With the new templates and terrain setups, they are not requiring, but they're way more encouraging diversity of terrain. Not everything needs to be an L shape or a U shape anymore. They are saying because of these weird shaped templates and everything, if you want to make this one a forest, you could do that. If you want to make this one the kill team, like Mechanicus style terrain, like go for it. So they're really encouraging the use of other types of terrain instead of just L-shaped ruins. Because the templates are what matter, right? The templates are also the objectives and things like that. But because the templates are a little more dense, that allows people a lot more flexibility in what specific terrain features are being used. I was really excited about that because I have a mountain of forests that I haven't used like all edition. So
I guess my question is, so beautiful narrative terrain's back on the table?
Yeah.
That
means some of my old weird terrain, like I've got, bastions and I've got ADLs and things like that. I've got stuff that, yeah, they're fortifications, but also no one's buying those as fortifications. So now I can at least put them on the table. I can, play some Space Marine or some guards and have this big bastion that I'm like that's the objective. I need to go to the bastion and save the Voxcaster that was blessed by so and so. Like, again, it's way more narrative, and it's going to, I think, look a lot better. Obviously, beginning of the edition, most tournament organizers, it costs money not only to update the templates theoretically, but also to like update all the terrain and change it and stuff like that. All the terrain we currently have, 100% usable. Day one, every tournament organizer gets to use their L-shaped ruins, and everyone gets to run an event. Day two, no problems, no questions asked. As we want to adjust that terrain, again, that costs money, costs time to paint all that stuff. Throughout the edition, we're going to start to see some other terrain, and the whole game is going to look better. But again, that costs money. So that's going to take a little time for us to start seeing the effects of that. But long term, great choice.
Okay.
All right. There are obviously so much more to go over. And given that they're putting out new information for 11th edition, let's say every other week, if not every week, it seems like every other day at this point, whatever. We've got a lot more to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I have a bit more information that I will kind of throw in as it feels relevant. But for now, I've talked everyone's ear off about 11th edition. So let's take a break, process some stuff, and then next week we'll come back and
talk about more 11th edition.
Talk about more 11th. We can talk about as recently or some points updates and new detachments. We'll see what we have time for next week, but we will, as we said in the beginning, we are back. We are getting back to regular and stable, so we will have an episode for you next week.
Well, on that note, I only have one thing left to say. Adeptus Mechanicus Portageon is back on the table for terrain. If you know, you know.
I do love that terrain feature. I don't know why that was built, but I'm glad it was. Anyway.
Well, on that note, thank you all for listening. Tune in next week. Hey everybody, it's Aaron. I want to thank you again for tuning in for this episode of Gopher's Workshop with us, hanging out and listening. Remember, leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you think. And if you feel like supporting us, you can always go to Patreon in the show notes below. Thanks. Till next time.